In this session, I'll show you how to use Painter's text tool. When you have the text tool active, the property bar shows you a number of choices. You'll see the same ones in the text panel plus a few more. So open the text panel as well as your layers panel, and let's begin by typing. As soon as I establish a cursor for my text, the layers panel automatically shows me a special kind of layer for text, which is going to be editable, just like it would be in any word processing program. So I will type Painter, then on the second line, type 2015. Now I can change the font, make it Hot Coffee. I quite like that one. And I could have changed that up here as well. I can change my font size by using this slider in the property bar or this slider in the text panel. I can change the tracking only here in the text panel, and that means the spacing between letters. So I can loosen or tighten that spacing. I can also change the space between lines, and that's called leading, because traditional typesetting had to do with placing strips of lead in between lines. I also have a choice of curve style. When there's no curve, it's called flat. And let me show you ribbon curve. A curve is like a vector path, and so you'll need to use your shape selection tool to move these anchor points around or to move the direction lines, these handles, around in order to get just the effect that you want. You can even add a point just as you would with a shape, and then using the shape selection tool, you can move that new point around or maneuver its direction lines. So lots of choices there. Let's return to our flat style. You can place a shadow behind your text. That's called external shadow. Or you can make an internal shadow. So you've got a couple of choices there as well. Now down here, we're looking at text attributes as opposed to shadow attributes. Let's work with text attributes. We can change the opacity of our text. We can blur our text. We can make a directional blur, and then we have a choice for the angle of the blur. I'll go back to no blur and full opacity. Now, if I want to alter the shadow attributes, I'll tap on this icon, and now I can alter the opacity of the shadow. I'm going to switch to an external shadow to make this a little more obvious. So now I'm going to reduce the opacity of the external shadow, bring it back up to 100 again, and show you a shadow blur and a directional blur as well. So we can do all kinds of effects just with these variables here. Now let's take a look at another kind of shadow. If I go to my Layers menu and convert this to a default layer so that it's no longer editable text, then I will see I have automatically created a group, Painter and Shadow. That shadow can be manipulated independently of the text. I'll just move it around. I can make that shadow less opaque. So this is a different way of manipulating the text and the shadow after they have both been rasterized or simply converted to pixels. Let's take a look at how the text can be combined with a background. But first, I will undo the last few things so I can go back to having the text in its editable form. I'll choose the canvas now, and I will make a selection. And I will fill that selection with a gradient. I think I'll choose this vivid mixture gradient. And so now if I use the paint bucket, I can fill with that gradient. I'll just tap right there. Now I will convert my text to no shadow. Let's just see what happens when we try some combinations. Now I can see that when my text is in the editable mode, I don't have access to the composite methods list. So I will have to convert that to default layer. And now I can see that I have some options for creating a composite with the underlying background. Let's try screen difference. Let's go to darken. How about pseudo color? I always enjoy a surprise when I use pseudo color. Magic Combine leaves us just with the R, and we have a few other options as well. Let's take a break here, and I will come back with more tricks that you can do and special effects that you can do with text.